we're just going to give our top 5 AFC, NFC Championship games that we've ever seen. So we both started watching football in 2005. We're not going to give you the catch. We're not going to give you some Steel Curtain Steelers game that we've never fucking watched. So since 2005, we're just going to list off our top 5 championship games that we've ever watched. Sage, I'm a gentleman. I'm going to give you the floor here. Give us your 5th best game you've watched.
Chase, set the odds right now for us having the exact same 5 games. Not in order, but just the same 5 games.
I'm gonna say plus 250. I think you're not gonna get one that I have. I don't think you're gonna remember this one.
Okay, fair. I'm gonna go 5. I think I'm not doing it justice, but I'm gonna go Seahawks 49ers.
2013 NFC Championship.
That's my 5. It's a great game. Memorable. 2 best teams in football. Hatred. You kind of have something similar with the Commanders Eagles, but on crack. Like 2 hard-hitting defenses. You have a young Kaepernick, who at the time people were starting to think might have been one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
I don't know if anybody was ever thinking that, but
no,
he was dynamic.
One of the best. I'm saying, yeah, okay. Up and coming guy. You know, he's getting the commercials, the Bose sponsorships. He's the man. Going into Seattle, a team they seemingly could not beat, had the lead the entire game, and then obviously comes down to the Richard Sherman pick, or the Richard Sherman tip at the end to the pick. Was it Cam Chancellor who caught it? Whoever caught it. Niners fans, it lives in infamy. I think it was one of the best games I've seen, and it sucks. It sucks that we came out on the other side. Seemingly so, always with the Niners, but I had to put that at 5 just because of like the magnitude of that game, it being in Seattle, how talented and stacked those teams were. One of the most memorable championship games I've ever seen. I remember it to this day. So when looking through the list, I was like, I got to mention this. It's 5 because I'm a Niners fan.
So I'm gonna say my take on this one, Sage, because that's coming up later. But so for my number 5, I don't know if you remember this one, Sage. I don't know if you were fully into the NFL at this point, but I got the 2009 NFC Championship game at number 5.
Saints.
So that was Vikings Saints. So what I remember about this game is that this was Brett Favre's first year in Minnesota. He came off a year with the Jets where they were solid, but at the end of the year, they kind of started fucking up. They didn't make the playoffs. He comes to the Vikings, who had a great defense with Jared Allen. He had Adrian Peterson, and I think they went 13-3. They beat the 49ers in a really close game at the start of the year, and they were just humming. They had one of the best defenses. They had AP and Brett Favre run the show on offense. And then the Saints. So the Saints really started making a come up in that 2006 year. So that was like the year after Hurricane Katrina. I think they made it to the NFC Championship game against the Bears. They lost, had a couple down years, but then they started out 13-0 and were the number 1 seed in the NFC. So they hosted this NFC Championship game. And I mean, the play that everybody remembers is the Vikings were driving at the end of the game. I think they had it on the New Orleans Saints 35, tie game with like 15 seconds left. Brett Favre rolls out, tries to make something happen, throws a pick. Throws the pick with 15 seconds left in field goal range when it was a tie game. They go to OT, and I think at that time stage, if you won the coin toss and you just went down and kicked a field goal, you won the game. The other team didn't have a chance. So this was kind of known as, I think this was Brett Favre's last, or no, this wasn't Brett Favre's last ever game. It was his last playoff game. And a lot of people remember it for that interception that he threw. So it went to
one of the most iconic calls.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember the call, but
it was the Vikings announcers like, I can't believe he threw it. I cannot believe he threw that ball. And they were just like going crazy because they had the game. He forced it into double cover, and he's just like this after. So I had this as my 4. Funny enough, you brought it up.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. So we're going to go back and forth here. That's funny. Go ahead.
So one of the things I had about this game is it was 31-28, but I just remember it like it was just fireworks. Like Vikings score first, Vikings score 7. Saints make it 7-7. Vikings score a touchdown. Saints make it 14-14. 21-14, then 21-21, 28-21, 28-28. Like just back and forth, like old school football with 2 classic quarterbacks. High scoring. It comes down. You have the iconic moment at the end. The Saints win to cap off that, or not to cap off, but to, get to the point where they can have
make their first ever Super Bowl.
Yeah. And it was just, it's a classic. I mean, it's like one of the pinnacles of Drew Brees' career. Great guy. Like it's Brett Favre being Brett Favre in the most Brett Favre moment in the most Brett Favre way.
That's unfair.
The Vikings.
That's unfair.
And it's funny because it's such a Vikings thing too, where they have all these heartbreaking playoff losses. You have the Blair Walsh game. You have this. You have the
1998 NFC Championship game. That's when they were badass with Randy Moss, Chris Carter. They lost to the Falcons that year.
Yeah, you just have all these moments. It's the pinnacle of it. I don't know, just one of the first moments of like football, like I truly remember, and just like thinking, like looking back on it, thinking how far away it was now. but it's like the beginning of the journey. So it's nostalgic and it's a classic game. So for an NFC Championship game, it's almost as good as it gets. So I have that as my 4.
So yeah, this is funny, Sage, because at number 4 for me, I got what you said was your number 5. So I have Seahawks 49ers. I truly think that there's a debate since 2000 that this may have been the best NFL rivalry with that team, with the Pete Carroll Seahawks teams. You had a young Russell Wilson running those offenses with the Legion of Boom. You had Bobby Wagner. They had a great D-line. I mean, that's one of the best defenses that you'll ever see. And they had the 49ers coming in with Jim Harbaugh. First year brought them to the NFC Championship game. They lost because of that Kyle Williams fumble. But these teams fucking hated each other, Sage. These teams hated each other every single time. Every single time they went up against each other, you knew there was going to be fireworks. And I think the only rivalry that could match it was the Ravens and the Steelers. When we saw Ray Lewis versus those Big Ben and Mike Tomlin teams. So
it was like an AFC North rivalry, those teams. Like dead ass, just like two hard hitting like defenses that just like
it was old school football. Like I think after that rivalry, that's kind of when we saw the old style of football kind of die. I think the first play of this game, Russell Wilson fumbled on his own 20. Allen Smith picked it up. Like you said, the Niners were up basically the entire game. I think the fourth quarter, the Seahawks took the lead. The Niners are driving down. I mean, they're driving down. You think it's going to happen. They're going hurry up offense. We still have 2 timeouts. We're like, take a timeout. Take a timeout. Calm it down. Kaepernick tries to go with the deep ball to, I think it was Michael Crabtree. And we know what happened there. Gets tipped by Richard Sherman. Malcolm Smith catches it. Aaron Andrews interviewing Richard Sherman after the game. Richard, what do you have to say about the play that you made at the end? When you put me up against a star receiver like Crabtree, that's a result you're going to get. Don't you ever talk about me. And I've never wanted to punch a TV more in my life, Sage. I mean, at that time, Richard Sherman was the worst person in sports. And it was tough being a Niners fan, but you got to admit that that's one of the best playoff games I ever watched.
It was 100% one of the best. I mean, I remember it to this day. Like, it's hard not like to forget that game. It's one of those times where it's just like you were so mad, like your first memory of being truly heartbroken as a sports fan, right? Like coming up, we always had the Giants. They always got it done. And then we were just waiting for the Niners. And then just back-to-back years, it goes out like that. So that was a good one, man. Like, it just sucks. It sucks how it turned out because we can't like remember it in as such high regard.
No, and then after that year, I mean, Jim Harbaugh, I remember coming into the next year, right before week one, I was watching Fox NFL pregame show. Jay Glazer said, even if Jim Harbaugh wins the Super Bowl, he's out as 49ers head coach. So they went 8-8 that year. That was basically it. So that tip by Richard Sherman for the interception, that was basically the end of the Jim Harbaugh 49ers. So, yeah, definitely a tough one to look back on as a Niners fan, but great game.
All right, Chaser.
What do you got at number 3?
I'm going to go with the classic. I'm going to go Niners-Falcons.
Okay.
Do you have this?
I don't. I actually don't.
Okay. I just loved it. I mean, Niners, trailing the whole game. I mean, this one's a biased take here. It's a biased take, but Niners, it's not going to be regarded in such like, highly across NFL circles, but I just love this game. First real moment of a Niners fan, like experience my team going to a Super Bowl, right? Like it's the first time in my life as a championship game. Like it just holds a special place in my heart. They go down 14-0. Julio Jones seems like he's unguardable. Kaepernick brings him all the way back. Was it the fumble, right? The fumble at the very end. Who was it? Was it Roddy White fumbles? They recover it. They get game-winning drive, score. Or was it Douglas? Harry Douglas maybe was it who fumbled. I should have had this pulled up, but just one of those games where it never felt like the Niners were going to win. They were always, playing from behind, coming back. Like it looked like they were dead at first. And then just like one of the true great comebacks that never gets talked about. Niners go to their first Super Bowl of my life. So I had to have this in here. Niners Falcons 28-24. I think it was 2013 or 14.
So this was 2012. This is 2012, I think.
12. Okay.
Yeah, but Sage, what I remember about this one, the 49ers were 5.5-point favorites heading into this game on the road in Atlanta. So the Niners were expected to win this game. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Falcons just go up. I think it was 21-3. Like Julio Jones was going off. They were hitting Roddy White. I think it was Michael Turner was the running back for the Falcons. So that Falcons offense was humming, but I don't think I've ever seen a 49ers team just come back so quickly. It happened relatively quickly. Like in the second half, I think they were down still about like 10 points, but they took the lead in the third quarter. And Somehow they have a lead, and then at the end of it, I remember that last drive stage where the 49ers were on defense. The Falcons almost got in. I think they got to the 5-yard line, and then it was 4th and 2. Matt Ryan goes back to throw, hits Roddy White, but Navarro Bowman gives him a little shoulder, knocks him past, and it's an incomplete pass. So I always remember the comeback. I'll remember how the Niners, I don't know, maybe the 49ers were in Magic City the night before. I don't know what happened, Sage, but they did not come ready to play at all. And then you had that comeback, and you had that big Navarro Bowman hit at the end to make sure Roddy White didn't catch it, turn the ball over on downs. And yeah, this was the first Super Bowl that I ever saw the 49ers go to too. So definitely has a special place in my heart.
Yeah,
sure.
look, it's funny because I haven't revisited to do prep. I was just going off the dome. I totally recapped that wrong, but in my head, it seemed a lot better than it was. But I still had to put it on there. First time seeing my team go to the Super Bowl, so I had to have it at 3.
So, Sage, my number 3, I got the 2014 NFC Championship game. So this was Seahawks-Packers in OT. This one was a weird one if you look back on it, because the Packers were basically dominating the entire game. This was the game the Packers played after the Dez Caught play. So they beat the Cowboys because of that Dez Caught play. The Seahawks are coming off a Super Bowl where they kicked the shit out of the Denver Broncos after they beat us. They're going for back-to-back Super Bowls. They're playing in Seattle. Immediately, I think the Packers take a 21-0 lead at halftime. The Seahawks start coming back. I think they hit so they scored 2 touchdowns with 2 2-point conversions to make it a 24-18 game. They go for an onside kick. I forget the guy's name, Sage. But
Richard
they go
Rodgers, was it?
What? Was it?
Was it Richard Rodgers?
I think it was Richard Rodgers. So the Seahawks need to get an onside kick. They onside kick it. Richard Rodgers just fucking fumbles it. The Seahawks get it back. They score, get the 2-point conversion, set in an OT, and I knew, because I was a Niners fan, I fucking hated the Seahawks. But I was like, I've seen this before. The Seahawks are going to get the coin flip, and they're going to drive down, win the game at home. And I think it was about a 50-yard bomb to Jermaine Kearse from Russell Wilson, and they win it. I think this was probably the most unlikely comeback that I ever saw. I've never seen a playoff game where a team needed an onside kick, got the onside kick, and then scored to win the game. That's never happened. So for me, that's got to be top 3, especially you had the Legion of Boom team going up against a prime Aaron Rodgers. That's an NFL classic right there for me.
In Seattle, like, you had the backup refs games. It just seemed like there was always like some history between those two. I think you covered it well. I think we'll for sure have the same top 2. I'm just curious what order you go in here.
Okay, so you go ahead with your number 2.
Okay. I'm going Colts Patriots. You got that one?
So that's my number 2 too.
Okay, that's your number. You want to start?
So I'll start because I fucking remember this game like it was yesterday. So I think I was about like 10 years old, and before the game, I was always a guy, Sage, where I liked watching the pregame shows leading up to the game. And
you hyped, baby.
And Peyton Manning. So Peyton Manning got a newspaper on his hotel, right next to his hotel door, that said Manning can't win the big one heading into this game. And that was going through. I was watching Fox 2, and that was kind of the story with Peyton Manning heading into this one. So this was 2006. I think at this point he's lost to Tom Brady twice in the playoffs, where the Colts were the 1 seed. They were favored in both games. Brady ends up winning 3 Super Bowls. Manning's never made it to one. I think, like you said, he had 3 MVPs, but just couldn't get it done in the playoffs. And the Patriots just jumped out right away. I think it was 21-3, and then Manning threw a pick 6 to Asante Samuel, who when I was first getting to the game, I think this guy was the best cornerback in the league. I mean, you remember the start of that game, right, Sage?
Yeah, of course. Wait,
yeah, we could kind of like go in and back and forth here a little bit.
Yeah, okay, no. So I was just gonna say, right? Like, I think this is the game that jump started really their career, right? They were always being compared to each other, but if Brady goes up, 3-0 on him in the playoffs, it just changes the whole narrative on it. Right?
Very similar to this Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes
exactly
that we
there's
had going.
Parallel.
Literally, pretty fucking similar.
There's parallels to it, right? Like, it's Brady always getting him in the playoffs. They jump out to that big lead. It seems like it's Kearns on Manning's career, not Manning's career, but Manning's like kind of legacy. It's kind of like what you see with Lamar, but in a totally different light and body. Like, this guy just can't get it done in the big moment. He can't get it done. He has all the regular season success. He can't back it up in the playoffs. Kind of flips it. And doesn't play his best game, right? I think he threw a pick 6
Yeah,
this
so he
game.
threw a pick six to end the first half to Asante Samuel. I think that put the Patriots up at least 3 scores.
Yeah, so I have it here. So that puts him up 20-3. It seems over. It seems like this is as dark as it gets or 21-3. It seems like this is as dark as it gets for Peyton Manning. And then engineers. I'm not going to say he was the main factor there, but the defense stepped up for the first time maybe in his career, forced some turnovers. Brady made some bad. I mean, the pick Brady had at the end, right? Awful. Never see Tom Brady do that. Kind of felt like he's the one who succumbed to the pressure in that point, but I just thought it was just like such an iconic moment where it jumpstarts just the most dynamic rivalry of the 21st century in the NFL. And I can't recall specifically, but I just think it was one of those days or one of those games where you remember it forever, but at the same time you go back and you rewatch it, which I wanted to do, and you just see a bunch of things that you forget. So I don't know. I'm going to say like this was kind of the moment where it became a Brady Manning thing, because after that, Brady never gets him in the playoffs ever again.
I mean, it was the night game too. I think that's a big thing, but a lot of people got to think about what the entire greatest quarterback setup was in the NFL before that game, because Tom Brady was not a better quarterback than Peyton Manning at that point. He won 3 Super Bowls, but in all honesty, a lot of that was due to the defense. Peyton Manning was playing like the best. He was kind of playing like Patrick Mahomes is right now, where if you're just looking with the eyes, he looked like the best quarterback of all time. He was playing better than any quarterback in NFL history had ever played, but he just couldn't get it done. So Brady was basically stealing all of the glamour from him, and if he lost that game at home to the Patriots again,
yeah, so
it would have been detrimental. I mean, it would have been so detrimental to his legacy. He ended up winning that game. They came back at the end. I'll never forget. So, Sage, do you ever watch these America's Game documentaries on NFL Network where they go through the entire season with the Super Bowl champions?
No.
You never watch that. So these are great watches. So they have it for every single Super Bowl year where they go through the entire Super Bowl run. And with this game, they're talking to Peyton Manning, and him, Jeff Saturday, and the running back, and Reggie Wayne are all talking about how they're going to break down the Patriots defense in the second half. And they all say, we got to run the ball. We got to run the ball. So that's really what jump-started the Colts comeback. They started run the ball with Joseph Adai. I don't know if you remember that name, but Joseph Adai was their running back. They started winning it. I mean, that's a classic video where you see Peyton Manning handing it off to Adai. He runs up the middle for the touchdown that gives them a lead. And like you said, Brady still had a minute left, so it wasn't locked up yet, but then he throws an interception. I think I forgot the guy's first name, but the last name was Jackson. It's like, Jackson intercepts it. Jackson intercepts it. The Colts are going to the Super Bowl. So I was a big Peyton guy. I never really rooted for Brady over Manning. So as a young football fan, seeing Peyton Manning win that game was great. And then he went on, beat the Bears in Miami, where Prince was seen in purple rain in the rain. So
didn't play well in that either.
This was the most important win, I think, of Peyton Manning's career. I really do.
You could say that, honestly. It's either this one or I think the Super Bowl versus the Bears, just to officially get the monkey off.
I think this was it. The fact that you're beating Brady, I think that a lot of people, like you kind of brought up with how you think the Super Bowl is going to go this year, where whoever wins the AFC Championship game is going to win the Super Bowl. A lot of people felt like that in 2006 as well. I think the Colts were at least 5.5-point favorites, so everybody kind of knew that the Colts were going to win that game against the Bears.
All right, Chase, what's your one?
So I'm going to introduce it, and then you can start it off. But, Sage, I think for people who started watching the NFL back in 2005, not only for how great the game was, but now that we're looking at it, seeing that the dynasty that we all grew up with is going up against the start of the dynasty that seems like they're going to be running for the next 10 years. The best championship game that I've ever watched has to be the 2018 AFC Championship game, Patriots-Chiefs at Arrowhead. Tom Brady pulls it out, 37-31, beats Patrick Mahomes in his rookie year, where you almost got to say it was one of the best quarterback seasons ever. That Chiefs offense came out of nowhere where Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Mahomes, Andy Reid looked unstoppable the entire year, but fucking Brady and Belichick get one more win that they needed to have, leads them to their 6th Super Bowl. But this game was insane, man.
I mean, like you said, it starts off so slow, 14-0 at halftime, right? And then it just takes off, right? Tyreek Hill, I think right out of the gate is it. So it's a 4-play, 74-yard drive, and it's Travis Kelce touchdown there. And then the next drive, Patriots get nothing, or Patriots get 3. Kansas City scores, gets a touchdown, and then it's just back and forth, back and forth. In that fourth quarter, Mahomes leads 2 game-winning drives. Tom Brady then leads a game-winning drive, ties it, goes up 3 with, I think it was 1:10 left, and then Mahomes gets him back into field goal range, comes down to the coin toss in overtime. Tom Brady had 2 3rd-and-10s, goes to Gronkowski, has one to Chris Hogan, and then Rex
No,
Burkhead.
so Edelman. It was Edelman.
Was it Edelman?
It was Edelman.
Okay, Edelman. So there was the one to – okay, so it was Edelman over the sideline. I remember Romo called it. And then Burkhead runs in the game-winning touchdown. Brady takes off his helmet, jumps into his own lineman's arms. They celebrate. They knew they just had it. But like Chase said, like, you didn't appreciate it until you look back. Like, it's the best dynasty we've ever seen coming up against the new and upcoming dynasty, this offense that seems unstoppable. I think they had already played that year or before. The Chiefs have –
So they did, and the Patriots won. So the Patriots won, but it was a high-scoring game.
No, I thought the Chiefs won. It was that Thursday night.
The Patriots won.
Wasn't it that Thursday night game to start the season where Kareem Hunt had 3 touchdowns? I'm thinking of something else.
I think you're thinking of something else. I think they played earlier in the year, and the Patriots won that game.
Okay. I thought so. My memory was they played the first week of the season, but maybe that was Mahomes' first.
No, that was a different year. That was when they had Alex Smith still the starter.
Okay. And that was the Kareem Hunt.
I remember it was freshman year of college. I got everything set up in my dorm room to watch the first Thursday night game of the NFL season. It was Chiefs, Patriots, and Alex Smith was still the starter. So that was the year before.
So, but then going back to this one then, right? Just like the back and forth, you're seeing quarterback play at the highest level, right? Like we said, with the Manning-Brady game, like it's an iconic game, but you look at those raw box scores, like neither of them played too well. Like it was kind of just like who didn't make the big mistake at the end. You look at this game, Brady, 30 for 46, a touchdown. 2 interceptions. You have the D Ford offside that gets called back. Was it right in this one?
So basically the Chiefs had it. And then D Ford gets called for offsides, give the Patriots another opportunity, and they convert.
That went off of
Julian Edelman play where I think, I don't know, were the Patriots up or were they down at that point? But I remember it clear as day. If you're watching it live, it looks like it hits off his knee. The guy for the Chiefs picks it up, runs it in. You're like, wow, Kansas City's going to beat the Patriots. And then you see Edelman going to the sideline. He's like, no. And then he's pointing to his knees like, didn't touch it. And you look at the replay, Sage, I don't think I've ever seen a replay that close. But so definitive. It was so close, but definitive. It did not touch him. It did not touch Julian Edelman's knee, but ever so slightly. They get the ball back and they tie it. And
so 17-14 at that point with 50 seconds left in the third quarter. 50 seconds left. Brady 2 plays later throws a pick. Chiefs go up 21-17. Brady leads them, goes up 3. Chiefs score a touchdown. Patriots score a touchdown. Chiefs field goal and a half. Patriots put it away in overtime. So as iconic as it gets, that one will live forever.
At that time, it was crazy because what it told me was Tom Brady is the boogeyman. Like, you can't stop him. Like, all those third and 10s that he hit on that last drive to get that touchdown drive, you're just like, nothing can stop this guy. Tom Brady is the best quarterback that we've ever seen. In a late game situation, he's the best to ever do it. But it wasn't a detriment to Patrick Mahomes. Coming out of that game, like you said, Sage, he led 2 game-winning drives that Brady just found a way to come back and bring in an OT. After that game, I said Tom Brady's the best to ever do it. But you knew that Tom Brady was getting old. You had a feeling, too, that this was going to be the Patriots' last ride at it. So you said, okay, they had one more ride, they got done. But you still knew. You said, wow, this guy Patrick Mahomes, he's coming. And the rest of the league got to watch out because this guy can fucking light it up. And Sage, he was not nervous at all. Like, usually you see that with young quarterbacks coming in.
Saw it in the first half a bit.
He fucking tore that defense apart late. So whatever Bill Belichick was trying to do to stop him, like he's done with so many quarterbacks in big-time situations, it didn't faze Mahomes one bit. It didn't faze Mahomes one bit. So Brady bested him, but you knew that Mahomes was going to be one of the best to ever do it as well. What a fucking game, Sage, and what a legacy for the NFL that game was.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, you had your pinnacle there where it's like you had like the Jordan LeBron in the same game. You watched them go head to head.
Yeah, and then you had that game later in the Super Bowl. I think a couple years later, Brady gets him again. But do you think we're going to use that game?
Yeah, 100%. Who's the GOAT? 100%. You have to.
Well, you're not going to let me ask the question. You're going to cut me off mid-question, baby. We
You
got
have
to do this
to,
for
though.
the viewers. We have these connections, but the viewers don't know what we're about to say.
Okay, go.
But do you think that at one point, 20 years down the road, they're going to use this game as a reason to say that Tom Brady's better than Mahomes if it starts to be a 50-50 argument? Because I think that you have to. I mean, we see it all the time with the NBA. Oh, what did they do in the championship, in the finals against each other? What did this guy do in the playoffs, like Manning and Brady? They use those arguments as well, that Brady did better in the playoffs, even though technically Peyton Manning had a better head-to-head record over him. They sometimes use a playoff argument with Brady over Manning. I think that we're going to look at this game as it's going to be the decider for who we see as the best quarterback of all time. I really do.
Yeah, no, 100%.